What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bodacious Rant with Burn and Rye. Hope everybody's having a great weekend and getting all the Christmas shopping done and getting ready for the holiday season. I'll tell you one movie that did not get me ready for this season. As a matter of fact, I kind of walked away frustrated by it, but I think it's a combination of like the experience and also just maybe the material, essentially. I just don't think I vibe with it. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but we're talking about the sequel to a very popular film. I would kind of call it a cult classic in a way because it's very popular amongst a certain fandom. Not, I wouldn't say it's like everybody loves it, but we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's 2, directed by, I just saw the director's name, I apologize. It was Emma Tammy, starring Josh Hutcherson, and who else is in there? McKenna Grace, Elizabeth Lail, and so on and so forth. Also featuring Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich, which was fun. But this is a spoiler-free review, so we're not going to ruin it for anybody, or try not to at least. And if you did like the movie, or if you just like tuning into me and Burn and listen to my nonsense, feel free to give us that thumbs up to show your support, ring the bell for notifications, and of course subscribe. We appreciate you all for that. So Five Nights at Freddy's, I want to say came out end of 2023, and this is the direct sequel to it, which it takes place 1 year after that one, so not super far off, where Josh Hutcherson's character, he's still him, and the other lead that's played by, I think, what did I say her name was? Elizabeth Lail. They are kind of dealing with the repercussions from the first movie and how the animatronics rose to life, and she realized her dad, like the dad was a serial killer, played by Matthew Lillard. And this one is just, the best way I could put it is that it's a further expansion on and more like in-depth look into the franchise in a way. It's peeling back the layers of the origins of this. And again, I think I said this in our review, but just to remind you all, I have never played Five Nights at Freddy's, the video game, because that's what it's based off of. So I have no idea what this is. But this is always that game I would see it like Blockbuster or something. I'm like, what the heck is that thing or whatever? It just looked weird. So, before Bernie, I unload my review and stuff and my thoughts on it. What did you think about this one? And just to refresh everybody's memory, how did you feel about the first one?
Yeah, and just to let everybody know as well that I also don't have really any familiarity with Five Nights at Freddy's outside of knowing what it is just based off of its pop culture zeitgeist. Just because it's a big property within the video game genre. It has a really big rabid fan base, and it in the other sense of like it having a presence online, it's one of those properties that has hundreds and hundreds of hours dedicated to the lore surrounding the video games, with a lot of people doing deep dives of it, a lot of people doing lore breakdowns of it. So this is a pretty big property in that sense, where it sort of goes from not just the video games themselves, but the discussion around the games. It's a pretty big deal in that sense. But for someone like me, the games aren't really my type of interest, and I haven't really played them, and but I just know of them because of how big the property is. And coming from the first one, I found myself I enjoyed the first one for what it was. I thought it was fine as like a sort of an introductory horror movie for people who are a little bit on the younger side. And, I guess for fans of the franchise, I think it maybe, I can't speak to them, but they seem to really enjoy it. So I think it sort of scratched that itch for them, and getting a movie adaptation that didn't just completely crap on the franchise like a lot of their video game franchises do, unfortunately. But for someone like me who has like no real experience or interest of the franchise, it was one that didn't really grab me personally, outside of just like, that seems like a fun kids horror movie. So with that being said, when they announced that there was going to be another one, I wasn't surprised because of how big the property was, and because of how much the fandom how well they received the first movie, and they were looking at maybe getting a little bit more out of it with a bigger budget and a sequel, and being able to dive into the things that they do love from the game. So that's always sort of exciting, right? The thing is, this movie, like the first one, didn't do much for me as someone who's an outsider of the franchise, to make me care about the things that were going on in this movie, to care about the characters, the events that were taking place, or really sort of get a sense of like the lore. I mean, this movie does sort of expand on the lore of the first game, which is always a good thing. But again, it's just one of those things where the movie's characters and the way the story is structured, it didn't do enough to make me care about the things that I was watching, and that is a little bit unfortunate. In our screening that you and I saw this movie, and people who seem to be fans of the games were really, really enjoying this. So I'm glad that this sort of landed for them. But I think this is one of those things where you run that sort of risk where when you tailor a movie to service only the fans, you kind of alienate everyone else that isn't already in the know of the things that are going on. So for someone like me, and I'm guessing for you as well, this movie itself didn't do enough to really get that sort of reaction in me to make me want to dive in more. I thought the performances themselves were overall pretty flat. I don't think they were really well written at all. Not to say like anything bad about Josh Hutcherson, Piper Rubio, or Elizabeth Lale. I think they all do as much as they can with the material that they're given. But again, the movie doesn't make these characters interesting enough for me to really care about the things that are going on. And when you're not connected to the story or the characters, you're just kind of just watching a movie at that point, and you're just watching images go past the screen. And there's a lot of cheap jump scares in this movie as well. So for a baby like me, that was kind of like a little bit of a miserable experience of just being bombarded with loud noises while simultaneously not caring about the things that were happening on screen as they were occurring.
And that's a very fair assessment, Bern. I do respect it. You're definitely you're more neutral than I am. Where, like you, I do agree. I have no idea anything about. I have nothing to know about these games. Both movies, though, have really done nothing for me to want to explore it, though, whatsoever. Because, like, Fallout that came out last year and the second season coming out soon, that made me want to play the games. I was like, man, Fallout's actually really cool if you think about it. But, again, I just couldn't vibe with the playstyle. I tried, like, Fallout 3 or something, I think. I forgot which one. I was on PS3, but I just couldn't do it. And yeah, I agree with your assessment. The acting was like everything was pretty flat about it. There was nothing really spectacular. The scares weren't even that great. There was maybe like one or two that maybe like oh snap, that got me a little bit, but everything else I was like, this is just so by the numbers. It's very uninspired, but again, that's probably just me, and also the fans were pretty obnoxious in our screening, like people constantly talking or rapid applauses for whatever reason. I'm not going to spoil when, but there was a lot of people were applauding, and I'm just sitting there like, am I not getting this right now? I don't think I was. So, yeah, it was just okay. I think even the horror aspect, it was very miss. It wasn't really scary or anything like that. There is a mid-credit scene, so for those of you who haven't seen it yet and plan on watching it, maybe you want to stick around for that if you want to feel like you got a complete look at it for the most part. But with all that being said, this movie just was a bit of a dud, especially for December, which is usually like awards movie season and stuff. And I was actually talking with Bern. I feel like this December has been pretty flat with movies. There haven't really been a whole lot of like movies I'm really anticipating right now compared to like previous years. But I'm gonna give this movie a hard 1 out of 5. I really didn't find much enjoyable. But again, that's just me. If you're a fan of the video games, you will probably like this just like majority of the people in the theater yesterday. But yeah, it's hard for me to recommend this. Even as a video game person, I'm just like, it's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a fan of the games, you're definitely going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this, as our screening obviously did. But yeah, for people like us who are a little bit on the outside or just looking for a solid horror movie, this didn't quite reach those goals. I mean, I think at best this movie is generic, and at worst it's just uninteresting, and that's unfortunate because, like I said, there seems to be a lot behind this franchise in terms of like all the lore that's going on there. So this should be a lot more interesting and engaging than it ended up being. So, someone who left the first one a little bit cold, but was interested in seeing where this went. For this one to come out and not land the way it did, it is unfortunate, and of course there's probably going to be more of these movies, but I don't think at this point it's going to be one of those things that gets me behind it, unless for some reason the third movie just absolutely clears everything that all the issues that I've had with this one, which there's still the chance, but the way that these first two movies have gone, I wouldn't expect that, and I don't think anybody would bet on that. So that is a little bit unfortunate for everybody involved, because I think you don't want to go out and make a bad movie. I don't think anyone goes out with that intention, but I feel like as someone speaking from the outside of these things. The fans deserve better than this in terms of the quality of a movie that you're getting. But I mean, if all you're looking for is the fun Easter eggs and things to clap at, then I guess you're gonna get that. But for me, that wasn't enough, and it's also a 1 out of 5 for me as well.
That's how I praise Bernie for this one. Not really, but yeah. So both 1 out of 5 for me, me and Bern. So for those of you who are fans of the video game, or you like the last one, please let us know what you think about this one. And yeah, again, I'm wishing you all a happy holiday season. I know it's a little early; we're getting close to it, but just keeping the vibes positive, even though my review was a little on the negative side. So until next time, everybody, stay bodacious and keep on ranting for us.
Absolutely, everybody. Be good, be safe, and as always, we'll catch you all on the next one.